welcome to my webpage. This is John Morrison, Santa Fe High School. I'd like to share with you the rubric that I use to grade my document-based questions for my AP United States History class. If you see here on my webpage, I've got listed here themes in history that we use throughout, that we try to reinforce and use to assess history, and also some concepts that we try to use and help us to think about history and help us to conceptualize some of the big ideas that we deal with. So let's jump right in. We're going to grade an essay that I assigned to my students on the Spanish-American War. So the first thing we want to do is let's take a look at the question and get an idea of where we're going. So our question here, if you looked here on my website, here's the question. Resolved. Quote, the explosion of the USS Maine caused the United States to invade Cuba in 1898, close quote. Use the documents provided and your own knowledge to evaluate this statement. Do you agree with this explanation of the causes of the Spanish-American War? Why or why not? Use and cite evidence from the documents to support your analysis of this statement. Well, first we're going to look at the statement. And we want to know that we are going to be sure that we address exactly what the question, or in this case the prompt, is asking. The explosion of the USS Maine caused the United States to invade Cuba in 1898. And then here is really what they're getting you to focus on. Do you agree with this explanation? Why or why not? Okay? So, let's move this down. Let's pull up, I've got my rubric here, and I'm going to pull up an example that a student turned in today. And I'm going to get that a little bigger so we can see it. And let's make it larger so that we can work with it. Okay? So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the thesis. Okay? I'm going to highlight the thesis and we'll take a look at it. This student tells us that the explosion of the USS Maine did not solely determine the decision of the U.S. to invade Cuba. The U.S. went to war in 1898 because they felt that they had to protect the justice of the Cubans. Comma, they felt their stability was threatened due to the destruction of the Maine, comma, and Cuba was a very important business and military stronghold that would add to the growth of the nation. Okay? We're going to look now at our rubric and we're going to analyze how this thesis and where it is strong and what it needs work on. Okay, now we're going to take a look at the rubric. Okay? A good essay, and I've defined it here, a good thesis and a good essay is going to do the following. It's going to answer the question. It's going to include multiple perspectives or points of view. It should include context, and I'll define that in a little bit, point of view, and it should include a roadmap. Okay? Now there's other structural parts to it here where we talk about quotes and we talk about concepts, which is something that we've been working on. But let's focus now again on the essay. The thesis. Let's take a look specifically at, do we answer the question? Okay? Remember, the question asked us to, let me pull up my question, was here. Do you agree with the explanation of the causes? Why or why not? And if the explanation was here. The explosion of the Maine caused the U.S. to invade Cuba in 1898. Let's read what we have here and let's ask ourselves, does this answer the question? Well, the explosion of the USS Maine did not solely determine the decision of the U.S. to invade Cuba. The U.S. went to war because they felt that they had to protect the justice of the Cubans. They felt their stability was threatened due to the destruction of the Maine, and Cuba was a very important business and military stronghold that would add to the growth of the nation. Does this answer the question? And the answer is yes. Okay? Remember, the question was, do you agree, okay, with this explanation, why or why not? Well, the author of this essay says that the explosion did not solely determine why the U.S. went to war. And then it spelled out 3 specific reasons. Okay, protect the justice, stability threatened, and an important business and military stronghold. So, go back to my rubric. Do we answer the questions? Well, we sure do. Okay? And the author here does a very nice job with it. Does the author take into account consideration of multiple parts of the question? Well, the question asks her, do you agree? Why or why not? Okay? She doesn't agree, and she explains why or why not. So we have answered the full question. Now, we've talked about all year, we've talked about processing concepts and applying them to a larger theme. And this is what makes for a good thesis. Let's look at some of the concepts that appear here. Justice, stability, and growth. So we see 3 concepts here, and they are used and applied to answer the question that she disagrees. The concepts are here, and now we want to ask ourselves, the rubric is telling us that we should process these concepts and apply them to a larger theme. We come back here, we go back to the web page, and you see here we've got 9 themes in history that we've been using. Number 9 is conflict unresolved by compromise and or change may lead to violence. We don't see that here in the opening paragraph, but let's look for it as we work our way down through this essay. Some way that she connects the ideas and notions of conflict and compromise and change and violence, and if she can maybe make that connection, that might really tighten up this essay in a positive way. The context is the notion of giving the reader an idea of where we are in history. Where are we in time? I've gone ahead and added this piece here. I'm asking my students, I'm looking for them to recognize historical continuity, how history repeats itself, or historical change, what's new about this, or historical interpretation. How is history shaped by the views and perspectives of those who experience it directly? So let's jump here. Let's see, what kind of context do we have? Here's an opportunity to mention imperialism or expansionism, or perhaps the rise of America as a military power. And as I come down here, I'm reading this, a very important business and military stronghold. I could probably be convinced that this meets the requirement, but I'm not there. I see that, but I could say this about other periods in American history. I could say this about Santa Fe, maybe an important business and military stronghold in 1848. So I'm not going to make that connection. I'm not going to give her that. I'm sorry. So I'm going to skip 4. We'll come back to that. It's not something I have to see in the thesis, but that's the idea of point of view, and I know AP teachers are familiar with that. But let's jump down to 5. Provides a roadmap. Here we're going to give the reader a taste of the essay by coordinating concepts. And clearly there's a real nice roadmap here. You can read this and know that we're going to get a discussion of justice, stability, and growth, and as we'll see, we do. So there is a nice roadmap. Again, the roadmap gives the reader a preview and coordinates the concepts within the thesis. So we see a nice job here in this sentence. So we'll give her full credit. Nice roadmap.